Hi, everybody. I'm Leah.
And I'm Tom.
And today we're going to look at our sports section. We're going to look at something very interesting, something I don't know a lot about, but I really want to play. The title is Pass, 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 Shoot! The Simple Pleasure of Chokeball.
Right. This is a kind of sport that is played in various parts of the world. I understand it's quite popular here in Taiwan as well.
It is extremely popular here in Taiwan from everything I've seen, and it should be because Taiwan is at the tops always of international competitions for Chokeball. They've won numerous awards for men's and women's teams, and really just historically they have dominated this sport. Taiwan is the dominating leader in this sport.
Yeah, I guess that's not surprising. When my daughter went to junior high school, I saw them playing this kind of game where they bounce a ball into a net that's kind of at a 45-degree angle or something like that. So I thought that was rather, or was it 90 degrees? I can't remember. But it was, it was kind of unusual. It wasn't really basketball, but they were playing it on a basketball court. So, yes, as you've said, this sport is popular in Taiwan, and it's popular in other parts of the world, too. I also like some of those kicking sports in Southeast Asia. I think it's called Tepak Chakra or something like that, where they take a little rattan ball and they try to kick it over a net as if they're playing volleyball, but they do it with their feet.
Yeah.
And then in Burma, they've got a sport called Chinlone, where they do the same thing. They get in circles and they kick that ball back and forth and do all sorts of fancy tricks and stuff like that. So these are kind of some examples of alternative sports, and the one we're going to talk about today is called Chokeball.
For me, I think about how when I was watching the Olympics this time, they've incorporated a lot of those kind of extreme X or X sports, extreme sports. Skateboarding was in there this time, and BMX biking, when you're doing the jumps and everything, the BMX bike jumps. I saw a girl from Britain who did a 360 on her bicycle with a forward flip on her bicycle. I was like, that's amazing. I've never seen that before. I know that you can do it on a motorbike, but I haven't really seen it on a bicycle. I guess it would be easier on a motorbike, or harder on a motorbike. It should be easier on a bicycle. But man, those sorts of sports are really incredible to watch and very they excite you when you watch them. So they're good additions to the Olympics. So I'm wondering if Chokeball has any space to be incorporated into the Olympics at some point later on down the road.
Well, I guess it needs to be played by lots and lots of people all over the world. Like baseball, of course, they did remove it from the Olympics at one point because it's only played in certain countries. A lot of countries just don't play baseball, but I believe they reinstated it as an Olympic sport. So, yeah, sports come and go in the Olympics, and who knows, maybe this sport will eventually become an Olympic sport. And, of course, Taiwan will have teams there competing, and they'll probably win all the medals, too.
Heck, I think they will, based on the way that Taiwan has performed over and over again in all the international competitions. Just a weird side note, my husband is Swiss, and he doesn't remember having Chokeball as a sport when he was growing up. So I asked him about this. He's like, yeah, I've never heard of this game before. So your daughter grew up playing it, but my husband, it originated, I believe, in Geneva. My husband never played it before.
Well, he plays some other weird sport that nobody else has heard of either, the one with the bike knocking a ball around and stuff like that. So I guess we need to do an article about that sometime in the future if we're going to talk about sports that come from Switzerland.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, that brings us to the end of our explanation, and now it's time for us to begin our lesson, so let's get to it. Let's find out all about Chokeball. Let's listen now to the entire contents of our lesson one time. You're in an indoor arena watching a fascinating game. Two teams are passing a ball rapidly and shooting at nets at each end of the playing area. The game is fast and furious but not aggressive. It's Chokeball, a sport everyone can enjoy. Chokeball is the creation of a Swiss doctor, Hermann Brandt, who was concerned about the serious injuries that athletes often sustain. He devised a non-contact sport that encourages teamwork. Its name derives from the sound the ball makes when it bounces off the net. Here are the rules. Each team consists of 7 players. There is a net in a frame at both ends of the court. Teams can score at either end. There is a semicircular forbidden zone with a radius of 3 meters around each net. If a shot hits the net and no player on the opposing team catches the rebound, the attacking team gets a point. If the rebound touches an opposing player while they're in the forbidden zone, the attacking team gets a point. If a shot misses the net, the rebound lands in the forbidden zone, or the rebound goes out of play, the defending team gets a point. A player may take 3 strides with the ball before passing, but may only hold it for 3 seconds. A team can make a maximum of 3 passes before it shoots. Since the only real skills needed for Chokeball are the ability to throw and catch, anyone can participate. You don't need much equipment, so it should be easy for you to give it a try.
All right, everybody, so let's get into our story today. Pass, 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 shoot, the simple pleasure of Chokeball. Now, Chokeball, it looks like it would be a German word, but really I think it's kind of a word that comes from the sound that the ball makes as it hits the net. Chok! And that's when it bounces off, it makes this chok noise. So it became Chokeball. And yeah, so why do you think they have pass, 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 shoot? Probably because these are some of the main actions you're going to do when you're playing Chokeball. You're going to pass the ball and you're going to shoot the ball as you're either trying to bounce it off the net and hit your opponent or bounce it off the net and keep your opponent from catching it.
Right, so those are some of the simple things you'll see in this game. And again, it's quite popular here in Taiwan. And in order to prepare for today's lesson, I was watching some videos on YouTube. And indeed, it does seem to be quite a simple game that anyone can play. So here in the first paragraph, it says, "You're in an indoor arena watching a fascinating game." So this is a scenario here. Imagine that you are in an indoor arena. An arena is, of course, a place where sports are played. Like, of course, in Taipei, here we have the Taipei Arena, and there are various other such structures all throughout Taiwan. And you're in that arena, and you're watching a game that is fascinating. If something's fascinating, it really catches your attention. It's very, very interesting, and you want to learn more about it. You probably check posts on Instagram or on Facebook all the time, and you find some really fascinating information. You want to learn more.
Yes, you're fascinated by the things you see. It draws your attention and makes it hard for you to focus on other things. 2 teams are passing a ball rapidly and shooting at nets at each end of the playing area. So this is just giving us some of the setup of the game. Normally, when we talk about a sport, we're going to talk about how many players play the game, how many things they can do during, like what are the basic rules of the game, how you score points and win the game, and where the game is played. So we know it's played indoors, as we mentioned before, and we know that, well, what happens? You have 2 teams. It's not just one team seeing what they can do, and it's all about hitting the nets to shoot at the nets and score, if you can, in the playing area. If it goes out of the playing area, then it's out of bounds, so you're probably not going to score points there. The game is fast and furious, but not aggressive. So a lot of times when you think of something being fast and furious, you think of something that gives you, that you have dedicated a lot of passion to. If you're playing a game fast and furious, or you're writing fast and furious, you're doing it with a lot of energy or dedication. This furious here does not mean angry. This furious means kind of with fervent passion or with a lot of energy. So you're playing this game with a lot of energy, and it's a very fast game, but it's not an aggressive game.
Exactly. And of course, furious has another meaning, which means to be extremely angry. My mother was furious when she found out that I had gone drinking with my friends. Oh, she was furious. But here, of course, the game is, full of a lot of energy, so it's fast and furious. But it's not aggressive, okay? You're not trying to knock people down. You're not trying to punch them or get angry at them. You're pretty much staying away from each other. And what is this kind of sport? Well, it's Chokeball, a sport everyone can enjoy, which of course people here in Taiwan enjoy very much, but I had never heard of this game until I actually came to Taiwan, and even then I only heard about it very recently. So here in the next paragraph it says, Chokeball is the creation of a Swiss doctor, Hermann Brandt. You probably have to pronounce this in German, Hermann or something like that. I'm guessing Brandt, but I'm going to say Hermann Brandt. That's how you'd say it in English. And he was concerned about the serious injuries that athletes often sustain. He was concerned about the injuries that athletes often get. And yes, we don't want people to be injured when playing sports, especially now because we're so concerned about brain injury and concussions and things like that.
Right, and this Swiss doctor developed this game in the early 1970s in Geneva, so it was in Switzerland. There are a couple of other games that are popular in Switzerland. One is called Radball, and that is a game where two people on two different teams, so 4 people total, will ride around on bicycles that can move forward and backwards, and they want to hit a ball into the net using their bicycle, not their feet, not a stick, but they're using their bicycle to hit the ball into the net. And that is also played in a very fast and furious way. But I think that one can get a little bit more aggressive, and this was something Hermann Brandt didn't want. One other game that's very popular in Switzerland and has a lot of different names through many European countries is called Innebandy, and that is a game where you hit a ball, a lightweight, it's called a wiffle ball, I think. It's a lightweight hockey ball with a stick, and you're running around on a pretty small course, and you have to hit it into nets from one side or the other. Not a terribly physical game unless you body check another person, where you run into another person and you hit them with your body. And maybe Hermann Brandt saw what was going on with some of these other sports and said, wait a minute, I don't want people to keep coming and visiting me, he's a doctor, and having all these sports injuries. So why don't I think about a game that maybe is a little bit better? Let me devise something that's non-contact. So he thought up, he created a non-contact sport, so one where you're not running around and smashing into one another and making contact, that encourages teamwork. So it's not just a game where you're like, ha, I'm the only person on this team and I'm the only important one. No, you have to work as a team. You have to function as a team. It encourages teamwork.
Right, and here we've got the verb to devise, which means you come up with a plan or some kind of procedure by thinking about it carefully. For example, you can devise a marketing scheme for your company to try to sell new products. So here he devised or invented or came up with this non-contact sport, and this particular sport encourages teamwork. Where some sports don't encourage teamwork, like somebody wants to get the ball and score himself and doesn't want to pass and things like that. But this sport actually encourages people to work together to pass the ball. It's truly a team sport, and its name derives from the sound the ball makes when it bounces off the net. So if you're playing various kinds of sports, you do various things with the ball. Like when you're playing basketball, of course, you bounce the ball off the court, off the floor. You're dribbling then. Whereas you're playing soccer, you're kicking the ball and you're moving it across the pitch, across the field there, in order to pass it to teammates or to score a goal. But here you bounce the ball off the net and chuk, it makes that sound. At least I guess it makes that sound in German or French or whatever. We're going to take a short break now, but please stay tuned. We'll be right back. Okay, everybody, let's get into the rules of Chokeball. We've kind of given you a brief introduction to this sport, and now we're going to actually talk about the rules. And, of course, every sport has rules so that you know how to play, and so you know how to know when somebody's cheating and things like that, and when they should be penalized and stuff like that. So, first of all, the first rule is each team consists of 7 players. There are 7 players on a side.
That's right, and that's more than, say, when you're playing basketball. So that means there's quite a few people, at least 14, on the court, not including any refs you might have. So that's not a small group of people. There is a net in a frame at both ends of the court. Teams can score at either end. So teams can run down to one end and then go back to the other end and score, which is not the way you would play basketball. Normally you have your side, right, with your goal or your basket, and then you only shoot into your basket. But in Chokeball, you can score on either side of the court, and that's really cool. So a lot of times when we talk about indoor sports, we have a court that we play in. So with a basketball court, you also have it with some outdoor sports as well, like a tennis court. So if you have a tennis court, that's where you would play tennis on, and that would be where the lines are drawn. A volleyball court, indoor or outdoor, would still be a court.
Exactly. So the 7 players on each team are playing on a court. And again, there are nets at either side of the court, and teams can score at either end. So you see them switching back and forth all the time. And here's the next rule. There is a semicircular forbidden zone with a radius of 3 meters around each net. So you've got the net at the end of the court, and then there is this line. It's a circular line, but it's actually semicircular. So it's not a complete circle. It's only a half circle, and that's away from the net a little bit, and it marks off the forbidden zone, and it has a radius of 3 meters. And it goes around each net. So you've got 3 meters extending out from the goal, and the line is along a circle or along an arc of that point. And so you've got a radius of 3 meters. The radius, of course, is a half circle, and the diameter is twice the radius.
A lot of times when we talk about this sort of a setup, we call it the D, right? So that it is basically, a semicircle is basically a D if you would look at it from, a drone perspective or up above. If a shot hits the net and no player on the opposing team catches the rebound, the attacking team gets a point. So one of the goals of the team throwing the ball at the net is to throw the ball so it will go out, I think, of the forbidden zone and hit the ground before the opposing team, the opposite team, the team that you are competing against, will get a chance to catch that ball. If it bounces, then you get the point. The team that is opposing you does not get the point. And catches the rebound. A lot of times when we're thinking of a rebound in basketball, it's the ball bouncing off of the rim of the basket, and then or the backboard. You can also get a rebound off the backboard, and you catch the ball before it gets back down to the ground, and that means that you rebound the ball. That's the verb form. The noun is you get the rebound. But here the rebound would be the bounce it's after the bounce, right? So it's the bounce on the net, and you get it after it bounces off the net. That's the rebound.
Exactly. So then the attacking team gets a point if no player on the opposing team catches the rebound. So after the ball bounces in the net and the team cannot catch it, then the person who threw the ball into the net gets the point for his or her team. Now here's the next rule. It says, if the rebound touches an opposing player while they're in the forbidden zone, the attacking team gets a point. So again, this is the rebound, and after the ball bounces off the net, if it touches an opposing player when they're in the forbidden zone, then the team that threw the ball into the net gets a point. So that's another way to score.
Right. So that means that you're going to see the opposing players jumping out of the way so they don't get hit by this ball more than likely. If a shot misses the net, the rebound lands in the forbidden zone, or the rebound goes out of play, then the opposing team, here the defending team, gets a point. So there are times when the attacking team will not get a point. If they miss the net completely, then they will not get a point. The defending team will get a point. If the rebound lands in the forbidden zone, like it actually drops to the ground in the forbidden zone and bounces there, that's not allowed. You need to bounce it outside of that D on the ground. If that happens, then the other team will get the point, not you. Or if the rebound, once you bounce it off the net, goes and goes out of bounds, it goes out of play, so it goes beyond the line of play, then yeah, the other team gets the point. This would be like in tennis when you hit the ball too far and it's out of bounds or out of play. A lot of times you'll hear out of bounds.
Okay, here's the next rule. It says a player may take 3 strides with the ball before passing, but may only hold it for 3 seconds. So again, a stride is when you move one of your legs in front of the other. You take a step, basically. And of course, you could maybe jump. I've seen them actually jump in the air a couple of times. So they take strides there, and they can take 3 strides with the ball, but then they have to pass it. And then, of course, they can only hold the ball for 3 seconds. So I suppose someone needs to be there with a stopwatch or something, counting off 3 seconds to make sure they don't hold the ball for too long.
Well, the same in basketball, right? When you get in the key or the area that's under the basket, you'll see the referee, he'll start moving his hand up and down by his body. And that's when he's counting the amount of time that the player that cannot be in that key for too long is in that key. So probably the ref here is counting seconds as well. A team can make a maximum of 3 passes before it shoots. That's why we have the title of our article today, Pass, 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 Shoot. You can pass a maximum of 3 times before you shoot. That's not the case in basketball. You can pass as much as you want before you shoot. But in volleyball, you can only hit a ball 3 times before it goes over the net, unless you block it and then you get an extra hit. So the maximum of 3 passes, you can pass it 3 times down the court to get it closer to the net where you might be in scoring position by bouncing it off the net because you're closer to the net. It's easier to hit the net. A maximum of means you cannot do more than. That is your maximum. The opposite of maximum is minimum.
Okay, now those sound kind of complicated there. There are a number of rules there, but still, compared to other sports, that is quite simple, and anybody can probably learn this game rather quickly. Now, here in the final paragraph, it says, since the only real skills needed for Chokeball are the ability to throw and catch, and so anyone can participate. So yes, indeed, you don't really need any great skills. Like for basketball, you need to have shooting skills and dribbling skills. Most people don't really need any actual skills for this game. You just need the ability to throw the ball and catch the ball. So basically, any average person can play this game. Of course, there are players who are better than others, of course. That's why you have international tournaments. But still, anybody who hasn't played this sport before can join in on a game right away. They don't need any special training.
And while they don't need much equipment, it should be easy for you to give it a try. And equipment here means like all you need for Chokeball is a ball, and a court wouldn't be your equipment, but a ball and a net, really, and maybe a good pair of tennis shoes, and something to wipe the sweat off of your face. I guess that might include in your equipment sometimes. But so it's not really difficult for you to play this game. You can play it anywhere. That's why they even have beach Chokeball. And it is, I have to mention here that Taiwan, once again, is just an incredible competitor in Chokeball. So I would bet you can go out and find Chokeball somewhere here in Taiwan and watch a really fun game.
It will be fun indeed. So that brings us to the end of our article for today, and we've had a good time talking about Chokeball. And I believe you wanted to tell us some more about some other version of Chokeball before we say goodbye.
Well, I mean, I've just always wanted to. Once I heard this game, okay, I have never heard of it before, but when I heard of the sport, I was like, I really want to play this sport. And the version I want to play is beach Chokeball. I didn't know that there was also beach Chokeball, but there must be, because when I looked into it, the Taiwanese winners of the sport existed. So it means that you must be able to play Chokeball on a beach, which makes sense, right? You can still pass, shoot on sand. For me, I grew up playing sand volleyball at different periods of time. And I love playing sports out on the beach. So sand volleyball, it's so much fun. It's so difficult to get out of the sand and go running. So I can imagine that Chokeball on the beach would be crazy. And there's another game that you might have heard of called spike ball. You have this net that's in between you, and you have a ball that you bounce it off of, and you can play that on the beach as well. That's one that's popular here in Taiwan as well.
Of course, lots of people like to play frisbee at the beach. Freestyle frisbee, of course, is popular in California and Australia and places like that. So yes, indeed, beach Chokeball is something you might consider, although I'm not much of a beach person, so I don't know for sure if Chokeball or beach Chokeball is actually played here in Taiwan. Have you seen people play it here?
I have not seen people play it here, but again, I was looking into competition levels of Chokeball, and definitely beach Chokeball is a thing, and Taiwan rocks it.
Okay, very good. So, of course, there are lots of different kinds of ways to play sports, either on the court in your school or at a local park, or in the case of beach Chokeball, you can go down to a local beach and play it there. I'm sure lots of people enjoy playing that down in Kending or over at Fulong or wherever. So, indeed, this sport is going to become more and more popular as time goes on.
It definitely will. I believe that. Maybe you and I, and our families could get together one weekend and see if we can figure out how to play beach Chokeball.
It's a plan. All we got to do is buy those nets and stuff, and then we're ready to go. I think we can even probably use a volleyball or something like that.
You know what we can say? We can say, game on.
Game on. It's a deal.
Competition's gonna start.
Exactly. It's all about keeping in shape and learning new things about sports and stuff, and we've had pleasure today talking about the simple pleasure of Chokeball. So that brings us to the end of our lesson for today. Thank you for joining us, and please join us again next time. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
And I'm Leah.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. So for English Digest, today is done, and my name is Leah.
And my name is Tom.
And
goodbye.
Goodbye.